The distributive property notes. The learning goal is to use a distributive property to simplify expressions. So the distributive property is used to simplify expressions. The distributive property of multiplication over addition and subtraction states that for three numbers a, b, and c, the following two formulas apply. So multiplication over addition means the a is multiplied by an expression within parentheses where there's an addition. And multiplication over subtraction is where there is multiplication, so a times an expression in parentheses where there is a subtraction, a minus sign. So what the formula states is that you distribute the a to the b and the c, to the terms within the parentheses. So if you look at step 1, the numbers inside the parentheses, which would be this and this, are multiplied by the number outside, which is a, the parentheses. So let's apply that step 1 to the examples to the right. So we have 2 is multiplied by 4x plus 2 times 5, which will equal to 2 times 4x plus 2 times 5. I'm going to further simplify it by doing what's in the parentheses. 2 times 4x is 8x plus 10. And let's look at question number 2. The difference between 1 and 2 is that 1 has a plus, and then question number 2 has a subtraction, meaning that when you multiply the 8 and distribute it to the terms within the parentheses, you'll have a subtraction between them. So it will be 3 times 5x minus 3 times 7. So 3 times 5x minus 3 times 7, which is equal to 15x minus 21. So I'm going to show another method, which is very similar, but it skips and omits sort of this step. It's called the rainbow method or rainbow strategy. So we have the same question number 1 and 2. We're going to apply 2 times 4x plus 2 times 5, and we're going to right away write what the product is. 2 times 4x is 8x, and then 2 times positive 5 is positive 10. So we'll use the rainbow method again for question 2. So 3 times positive 5x and positive 3 times negative 7, which is equal to 15x, and then 3 times 7, negative 7 is negative 21. So step 2, make sure to follow the double sign rules when adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. So the rules state that when you have two additions together, answer will be positive. If there's a plus and a minus sign together, it will be negative. Two negatives make a positive, and a negative and a positive makes a negative. So let's look at question 3. Negative 4 times 6x plus or minus negative 4 times 2. So I'm going to use the rainbow method. So negative 4 times positive 6 is negative 24x. And negative 4 times positive 2 is negative 8. Question 4. We have negative 5x times positive 3x, and then negative 5x times negative 4, which is negative 15. Now x to the times x, when the base is the same for the variables, we add the exponents, which would be x to the power of 2. And then negative 5x multiplied by negative 4 is positive 20x. So plus 20x. You can also answer the same questions the longer way or using the formula, and I'll show that on the blackboard over here. So we have question 3. So using the formula, we're doing and distributing the a to the 6x and the 2. So this equals to negative 4 multiplied by 6x plus, which is the sign in the middle, plus negative 4 times 2, which is equal to, so now we're going to do what's within each parenthesis. So negative 4 times 6x is negative 24x plus negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. And now we see here that we have a positive and a negative, which makes a negative. So this makes a negative. So I'm going to rewrite this as negative 24x minus 8. So I find this method sometimes can be a little more confusing, or you just really have to know your double signs and make sure that you're keeping things in parentheses that should be until the very final step when you're ready to eliminate them. We'll do the same thing to question 4. So it will be negative 5x times 3x minus negative 5x times 4, which is equal to negative 5x times 3x minus negative 5x times 4, which is equal to negative 15x squared. I'll keep that in brackets. You don't technically have to, but we'll just stick to the formula. Minus negative 5x times 4, which is negative 20x. Now here we have 2 negative signs, which makes it a positive. So I'll rewrite this equation. This is equal to negative 15x squared plus 20x. So how to simplify expressions? To simplify an expression, if there are parentheses, use the distributive property. Ensure you follow the double sign rules. Step 2, combine like terms. So if the terms are like, then you can add and subtract the coefficients. And if they're constants, you can add them as well. So let's look at question 5, and I will use the rainbow method. So this is equal to 6 times x minus 6 times 2 minus, and then if there's a minus and a brackets, everything within the brackets changes signs, and I'll show that shortly. So 6 times x is 6x. 6 times negative 2 is negative 12. Minus, so the 3x was positive, so now it's going to be negative. And then it was plus 7, so now it will be minus 7. There's a few ways to look at that. You can either remember the rule, if there's a subtraction in front of brackets, all the signs within the brackets change of the terms, or there is kind of an imaginary one there, and you distribute negative 1 times positive 3x. Negative 1 times positive 7 is negative 7. So now I'm going to, step 2, combine like terms. So we have 6x, negative 3x, that's one like term. And then I have 2 constants, negative 12 and negative 7. So I'm going to group them, starting with the x's, so 6x minus 3x. minus 12 minus 7. And now I'm going to further simplify it by subtracting the coefficients, which is equal to 6 minus 3 is 3x. Negative 12 minus 7 is negative 19. So let's look at our first question here. Simplify the following expressions. So if we see parentheses, we're going to eliminate them by applying the distributive property, step 1. And then step 2, we're going to collect like terms, add and subtract the coefficients or the constants. So question 1, 9 times 4 and 9 times positive 2x is equal to 36 plus 18x. And you can rearrange it as well with the term with the highest power, variable with the highest power goes first, and then the constant. But for grade 8 math, you can still leave it in any of these two ways. So question 2. So 3 times 8x and 3 times negative 7. That equals to 24x minus 21. And now let's do question 3. So it's a times a times 1, and then there's minus. You can either see it as the negative 1 here or eliminate the parentheses and change all the signs of the terms within it. So a times a is a squared plus a times 1 minus 2a plus 3. Now we'll collect like terms. So there's a squared, there's no other a squared. We also have a minus 2a, and then a constant 3. So a minus 2a is negative a, and then plus 3. Let's look at question 4. So this one has a fraction, which looks a bit different than the other ones, but we'll apply the exact same rule. So you can apply the distributive property to the terms within the parentheses, and then collect like terms, combine them. So first step will be to, because there's parentheses, to remove them. So I'm going to apply the distributive property to this and to this. So I'll draw my rainbow arrows. So this is equal to 2 minus 3 times 4x is minus 12x. Negative 3 times positive 1 is minus 3. 1 over 3 times 15x will equal to 15x over 3. If I further simplify it, it will equal to positive 5x. And 1 over 3 times negative 9 will be negative 9 over 3. If I further simplify that fraction, it is negative 3 minus 3. So now I'm going to group them, collect them, group them, and subtract, combine like terms. So I have my constants, 2, negative 3, and negative 3. Then I have negative 12x plus 5x. And I'll highlight them so they're a bit easier to see here. So negative 12x plus 5x plus 2. So if we don't see a sign here in front of the 2, then it's assumed that it's a positive or implied. Plus 2 minus 3 minus 3, because there are two negative 3's here, here and here. So negative 12 plus 5 is negative 7x. And then 2 minus 3 is negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. And here is your practice questions that you can complete.